everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, miss.
Okay, how are you today, Wahyu?
I'm fine, miss. Thank you.
That's great to hear that. So, before we start our lessons, I will introduce myself. My name is Nimadi Ayudya Cahaya Budhi AStiti with my student ID is 241301111 from class 4A Math Education. And also, before we go through the lessons, please prepare your notebook and stationery because today we will learn some things about factors. So, factors are very important in mathematics because they help us describe movement, direction, and also position. And vectors are also widely used in physics, engineering, navigation, and lastly in computer graphics. So, before we start, let me ask you something. Have you ever used Google Maps when traveling somewhere? Wahyu?
Yes, miss. I use it when I go to a new place.
Excellent. So, when Google Maps tells you to move 500 meters east or turn north, it is actually using the idea of vectors. So today we'll learn what vectors are, how to calculate them, and also how they are used in everyday life. So the first one is understanding vectors. So a vector is a quantity that has both magnitude and direction. Magnitude means the size of something. Direction tells us where the object is moving or pointing. A vector is usually represented by an arrow above a letter, like these symbols. And also we can read it as vector A. Now let us compare vector and scalar. A scalar quantity only has magnitude. For example, mass, time, temperature, and lastly distance. And second one is vector quantities. A vector quantity has both magnitude and direction. For example, displacement, velocity, force, and acceleration.
Miss, I have question for you. What is
Uh,
the difference between distance and displacement?
okay, good question, Wahyu. So distance only tell us how far an object travels, and displacement tell us how far in what direction the object moves. So therefore, displacement is a vector quantity. Next, we have representing factor. A vector can be represented using coordinates. For example, vector A equals uh, 3, 4. So this means 3 units in the horizontal direction and 4 units in the vertical direction. And usually we draw the vector from the origin point, which is 0, 0, and move to the point 3, 4.
So the numbers tell us the movement in each direction?
Exactly, Wahyu. The first number represents horizontal movement and the second number represents vertical movement. Next, we have magnitude of a vector. So, why do we use the square root? So, the magnitude represents the straight line length of the vector arrow, like this formula. And this calculate the diagonal length perfectly. So, next, we have suppose we have vector A equals 3, 4. The formula for magnitude is this. The magnitude of vector A equals the square root of x square root plus y square root. So, using the magnitude formula, we can get the magnitude of vector A equals the square root of 3 square root plus 4 square root. This equals the square root of 9 plus 16, which is the square root of 25. Therefore, the magnitude of vector A equals 5. So, the magnitude of a vector A is 5 units.
Miss, why do we use the square root?
Okay, so it is because the magnitude represents the length of the vector, and we use the Pythagorean theorem to find the length. Like I said before. Next, we have vector addition. Now, to add vectors together, we need to add the corresponding components directly. Simply group them and add the horizontal x value together and add the vertical y values together. Now, suppose that we have vector a equals 2, 3 and also vector b equals 4, 1. To add vectors, we add the corresponding components. So it's become vector a plus vector b equals 2 plus 4, 3 plus 1. And we get vector a plus vector b equals 6, 4.
So we add the x values together and the y values together.
Yes, exactly, Wahyu. That is the basic rule of vector addition. Next, we have vector subtraction. Now, the core subtraction rule is, does subtraction work the same way as addition? Yes, the logic is identical. Subtract the horizontal x values and subtract the vertical y values. So, suppose that we have vector a equals 7, 5 and also vector b equals 2, 1. In vector subtraction, we get vector a minus vector b equals 7 minus 2, 5 minus 1. 1. So we get vector a minus vector b equals 5, 4. Therefore, the result is 5, 4.
So subtraction works the same way as addition?
Yes, it's totally correct, Wahyu. So the only difference is that we subtract the corresponding components instead of adding them. Next, we have types of vectors. So the first one is zero vector. For example, has coordinate of 0, 0. It holds no direction and has zero length. Second type of vector is unit vector. A vector whose magnitude equals 1. Unit vectors are often used to indicate direction. And third types of vector is equal vectors. Two vectors are called equal vectors if they have the same magnitude and the same direction.
Miss, do equal vectors need to start at the same point?
So it is as long as they have the same magnitude and direction, they are considered equal vectors, Wahyu. Okay, next we have application of vector. So vectors are very useful in everyday life. The first application in vectors is in navigation. So pilots and sailors use vectors to determine direction and move. For example, an airplane may move 200 km east and 100 km north. Vectors help describe this movement accurately. Next is application in physics. Force is a vector quantity. When multiple forces act on an object, vectors help determine the resulting force. Next is application vectors in engineering. Engineers use vectors when designing bridges, buildings, and machines. So vectors help ensure accuracy and stability. And lastly, application of vector in computer graphics. So vectors are used in animation, video games, and 3D modeling. They help determine the position and movement of objects on a screen.
Wow, so factors are really used in many different fields.
Exactly, Wahyu. This is why factors are one of the most important topics in mathematics. Now, let us do some exercise to check your understanding, Wahyu. So I will give you about 2 minutes to solve this first question. The first question is given factor A equal 4,3. So find the magnitude of A. Alright, time's up. Now please explain your answer, Wahyu.
First, we use the magnitude formula. The magnitude of factor A equals the square root of 4 squared plus 3 squared. This equals the square root of 16 plus 9. This equals the square root of 25 and equal 5. Therefore, the magnitude of factor A is 5 units.
Okay, excellent work, Wahyu. So now for the question number 2 is given factor A equals 2,5 and factor B equals 3,1. Find factor A plus factor B. Alright, time's up. Now please explain your answer.
Factor A plus factor B equals to plus 3,5 plus 1 equal 5,6. Therefore, the answer is 5,6.
Okay, excellent, Wahyu. You have applied factor addition correctly. Now, today we have learned about the definition of factors, magnitude and direction, factor representation, factor addition, factor subtraction, types of factor, and application of factors. So, why are factors is important in life?
Because factors help us describe both magnitude and direction, and they are useful in mathematics and real life situations.
Excellent answer, Rahil. So factors are not only important in mathematics, but also in science, engineering, navigation, and lastly in technology. So thank you for your attention today. So before we end the lesson, please review today's material and practice more factor problem at home. And see you in the next class.
Thank you, Miss. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Wahyu. Thank you.